The 11th edition of Warhammer 40k is here, and with it comes a new Armageddon starter box chock full of new orcs and space marines that Games Workshop sent to me early. Now, a few of you may remember my goal to finish off my 2,000 points of Raptors before this new edition, and I unfortunately didn't quite make it. Or so I thought. There are more than enough space marines in this box set to make up for my shortfall, and if you're watching this video in the first week of it going live, then the official 11th edition launch is still a few days away. So join me as I convert and paint every single space marine in this box and finally complete my goal of having a playable Raptor army before 11th edition. I started out with the 4 character miniatures in the box, as these would require the most modification to achieve that Raptor look that the rest of my army has, and the very first of these was the Captain. As with all the models in this box set, everything is monopose and push fit, which would certainly make the conversion work trickier, but not entirely impossible. After liberating all of the parts required to build the Captain, I kicked off the build with my usual first step of converting Raptors, the removal of any and all superfluous details. If it's decorative or not providing any tactical benefit, then it must go. The more prominent details were clipped away, and any sculpted details to the armor were first carefully shaved away with my knife before being finished off with a combination of files and fine grit sandpaper. As part of this removal of details, I also needed to delete a few of the more prominent items, such as the sword sheath from one of the rear plates, as well as the tarugis that hang from the belt. From this leather loincloth piece, I carefully removed the knee pad with the intention of discarding the rest. I also made all of these changes before I fully assembled anything, just to make reaching those tricky areas much easier. Also, if you're assembling push-fit models like this, and you plan on gluing things anyway, just quickly clip away the pegs first. More often than not, they get in the way of making a good seal between the parts, so unless you need them for a bit of structural integrity, I'd recommend removing these too. With the extra decorations removed, I could now begin adding in more of my own Raptor-friendly details. The first of these was the sword. Where possible, I like to equip my Raptors with knives rather than swords, but if they absolutely need a bigger weapon, then I will always prefer an axe. And this Captain was no exception. Armed with an axe from the Horus Heresy weapon upgrade kit, I first removed the sword from the Captain arm and removed the hand from the axe. After cleaning up the contact points, I made the small joining area that bit stronger by drilling a 1mm wide hole into each part, inserting a metal pin, and then supergluing the parts together. When it came to tackling the shield, the original was far too ornate. So I opted for the much more utilitarian look of a Horus Heresy breacher shield. Attaching this was quite simple too. I simply clipped away the peg from the Captain's left arm, smoothed out the surface, and glued the shield over the top. This was then followed up with a suitably tactical looking head that I sourced from the Eliminators, which I used to ensure that the shield wasn't being held too high to block the Captain's eyeline. With both the shield and head in place, I swapped out the original backpack for a pack also from the Eliminators. The extra piece of camouflage fabric complemented the cloak nicely. Now once I've finished building all of these Raptors, I'm going to need a way to both store them and transport them safely, which is where the Mag Case 2.0 from Tabletop Stronghold comes in, who are the sponsors of this video. As you can probably figure out from the name, the Mag Case is a magnetic carrying case. It also doubles up as both a safe way to store and even display your laboriously painted miniatures thanks to this clear Perspex window in the front. And through this window you can see the rest of my Raptors ready to be joined by the Armageddon Marines once they are done. They have all been mounted to the steel trays that make up the interior of the case. So after gluing their provided magnets to their bases, your miniatures will remain securely in place without the hassle of clips or pick and pluck foam. The shelves also slide all the way out, so you can be easily removed and moved around to create different heights between them, meaning I can have my regular inventory on one shelf and keep a large enough open gap to hold onto that new Landspeeder too. I also find these particular pallet trays to be really helpful when you're deploying, packing up, or moving between tables when you're at tournaments. And to make shipping a tiny bit easier, the mag cases come in flat pack form, but seriously, don't let that put you off. If you've managed to assemble any recent Games Workshop plastic kits, then this will be a doddle. I even managed to do it without the instructions just to see how simple it was to build. But that simplicity doesn't take away from the sturdiness at all. The outside structure is laser-cut MDF, and the way everything locks together means that the fully built case can easily support a 250-pound wizard on top of it. So if you're looking for a safe way to store and transport your miniatures that are adjustable to your needs, then check out the Mag Case 2.0 from Tabletop Stronghold. And right now is probably the best time to grab one, as they currently are running a Independence Day sale with discounts of up to 35% off all mag cases, and that's running all the way through to the 5th of July. Oh, almost forgot. They also offer free shipping to the US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and most of the EU. Check them out for yourself by using my link in the comments and description below, and let's get those Raptors finished off. The Captain was very nearly complete, but by choosing not to attach the Tarugis, I'd left myself with a small gap at the waist, which I decided to rectify with a little bit of sculpting. I grabbed some Tamiya epoxy putty, the quick drying type, and mixed up a small batch before leaving it to harden ever so slightly for about 20 minutes. Then a small blob was placed onto the gap, where I then used some sculpting tools to rough out the shape of a standard Space Marine belt. I also used a little Vaseline on my tool seat to reduce the stickiness, but a little water would have worked too. Once the basic geometric shape was achieved, I then rolled up an even smaller sphere and pressed this into the middle to create that central circle. After allowing the putty to cure fully overnight, I then tidied things up with a combination of my knife and more fine grit sandpaper to help achieve that hard, defined edge. Which brought me neatly to the most important steps of my Raptor conversions: the handy storage bits. Here I sourced a wide range of pouches, grenades, and other tactical equipment from various Space Marine kits. The infiltrators are particularly ideal for this, and if you want to get a hold of a decent number of these parts, I'd highly recommend my friends over at bitsbox.co.uk. With this carrying capacity greatly enhanced, my Captain and first Armageddon Raptor was complete. Next up was the Chaplain. And this is where I really had to start evaluating just how this model would look through the lens of a Raptor. Whatever I came up with needed to fit in with the rest of my army whilst also still being recognizable as a Chaplain. So I started out by removing some of those extra details, but I didn't get rid of all of them. I kept the chain and symbol around the chest, as well as the parchment and book at the waist, but apart from that, the ostentatiousness was pared back just a little bit. After removing and smoothing out the arm stubs, I then assembled the torso. This was because I settled on using a different pair of arms completely. I first of all decided to remove his Absolver bolt pistol to his right arm, which required me to carefully remove the body of the pistol from its original arm and graft it onto an Assault Intercessor arm from which the pistol had also been removed. It did require quite a bit of fiddling to get a perfect bond, but once everything was glued together, that change was barely notable. The left arm was much more straightforward though, as I simply attached a Reaver arm with the knife held in a reverse grip, before finishing off the arms with some Assault Intercessor shoulder pads. The final few steps for my Chaplain involved attaching the iconic skull helmet, but not before removing the crest from the top, and then adding those all-important pouches. What I was left with was something that was still a Chaplain, just maybe one who had more of a straightforward fashion sense. The Librarian was equally tricky, as I felt most of the details found on this model were more about stopping him from turning into a puddle of eyes and tentacles, rather than just being decorative. So I removed a few of the smaller items where I could before assembling the model. Where I could start to bring back the Raptor theming was in the head, which I swapped out for another Eliminator, the backpack, where I used an Infiltrators, and then of course, the pouches. The final character was the Ancient, and it just didn't quite seem right to have a chapter that I'd built around practicality and utilitarianism having a member stood around waving a big old flag. I needed something that would fulfill the same battlefield role as an Ancient though, a role that would help to boost the unit fighting around him, and that's how I settled on building a 41st Millennium version of the Master of Signals. I started this by first removing those extra details. As I intended to use different arms, both of the existing arms needed to be cut back and cleaned to create flat mounting points for my new arms. The first of these was a left arm taken from the Intercessors kit that held this small wrist-mounted computer. For the other arm, I settled on an arm holding a giant Auspex which I'd taken from the Phobos Kill Team set. For the shoulder pads, I attached another Assault Intercessor pad to the left, but kept the right arm as the original small Phobos pad. To really push the comms aspect even further, I first attached one of the infiltrator backpacks that came topped with the small satellite and aerial array, and followed this up with an aerial helmet which came from the Deathwatch kill team. Pouches were added, and my Master of Signals was complete. Which brought me to the units, and the first of these were the Vanguard Veterans. When these guys were first announced, a lot of people felt that they weren't all that different from their jump pack Intercessor counterparts. They just maybe had a little more decoration, something which I then made even worse by removing said decoration. For the Sergeant, I opted to not use the two-handed sword, instead reuse some regular jump pack Intercessor arms, mainly because removing that wrapped parchment would have made things more difficult, but also because it hid the chest and the prime real estate for some extra pouches later on. Then, to help bulk out the jump pack a little, I took some inspiration from Kavan Shrike and sourced a couple of extra fins from the Reavers. These were attached to the larger exhaust to create some additional stabilizers. For the head, I opted to use the visor and rebreather combo from the Intercessors, and then added my obligatory pouches. For the rest of the squad, I simply repeated these steps, although I did keep their original sword and pistol combinations. Once they were done, I was left with something that would hopefully stand out against my lighter, more Phobos-orientated jump pack Intercessors, marking them out as veterans that their name suggests. For the Eradicators, things were incredibly straightforward. If you caught my last video where I tackled the melter-armed Eradicators, I pretty much repeated those same steps, basically boiling the process down to the removal of extra details and adding some extra equipment. This was also the case for the Intercessors, but this larger squad did give me more opportunities for modifications. On top of the usual changes, I also replaced a couple of the Intercessors' weapons with some regular bolt rifles taken from the multi-part versions of the Intercessors. However, to make them look a little more varied, I loaded them up with scopes taken from the Incursor and Infiltrator bolt carbines. The final model to tackle was the new Landspeeder. For this, I kicked things off by removing some of those bigger icons and then assembling the vehicle. I did, however, just to make painting a little easier, leave a few of the components separate. This included the crew, the grav plate, the missiles, and the assault cannon. In addition to the usual pouches, which I this time sourced from the Eliminators due to their larger size, I also fixed a couple of Horus Heresy smoke launchers to the hull. These can be found in pretty much any Space Marine vehicle from the Horus Heresy range, alongside a whole bunch of incredibly useful vehicle accessories. And with that, all my Armageddon Raptors were built and ready to be painted. Which I did in the exact same way as I had tackled all of my previous Raptors. So rather than rehashing the process again, I will instead direct you to my Jump Pack Intercessors video where I break down the entire scheme, and that should be visible in the top right corner as well as in the description. I did, however, have something extra to paint on these minis that I hadn't tackled, and that was some camo cloaks. For all of the cloth areas of these models, which included both the cloaks of the Librarian and the Captain, as well as the loincloths of the Vanguard Veterans and Ancients, I decided to paint on a rough desert scheme. Something that wouldn't necessarily match the basing scheme I went for, but would complement it somewhat. To achieve this, I started out by base coating all of the cloth using some Argonaut Skin from the Tooth and Coats range, and as the name suggests, I made sure to apply a couple of slightly watered down layers to achieve a solid starting colour. For the camouflage pattern itself, I started out with some Scorched Earth and applied this in some irregularly shaped, slightly horizontal splodges. I kept enough space between each section to allow me to add more colours in later, and only applied the pattern to the outside of the cloth. I then repeated this with some of the light tan of Dragon Fang, with each section directly neighbouring the previously painted brown patches. The pattern was then finished off with some final splodges of the reddish brown of Cuirass Leather. With the pattern complete, I then gave the cloth a wash created from Cygor Brown thinned with some airbrush thinner, so that the paint accumulated in the creases to create the appearance of shadows. Then, to pick out the raised folds, I used a lighter version of the base coat, Kronos Flesh, as a highlight, before picking out only the most prominent points with the even lighter Ares Flesh. And with that, I continued painting and basing everything in the same way that I tackled the previous Raptor models, which left me with this. And so that concludes my goal of achieving at least 2,000 points of Space Marines before the official release of 11th edition. I may have cheated a little bit, but the end result is the same. I still have a fully playable force of Space Marines to field. But this is definitely not the end of my Raptors. 2,000 points was just the baseline, and I now have a lot more freedom to simply add whatever units or characters I feel like. So if you've been enjoying this series so far, expect to see much more in the future, and leave me your suggestions on what to tackle next in the comments below. As always, if you want to give these conversions a go for yourself, I'll include some links to the kits I used down in the description, along with all the modelling and painting equipment that we use in this video, along with some affiliate links. I've also partnered with Warhouse, so if you're in Australia, New Zealand, or any country for that matter, and you're looking for some discounted Warhammer, be sure to follow my links to them down below. But before we go, I would like to give all of my Patreon supporters and channel members a huge thank you. I've been a little slower on the uploads recently for a few reasons, so I really appreciate you guys bearing with me. Between the bigger builds, recent conventions, and the third spare parts Emporium kit that I've been working on, I've just not had as much time. So I really appreciate you sticking with me and making all of these videos possible. Even if you're not able to support me financially just by watching this far, leave me a like or subscribing, you're doing a massive amount to support me in making more videos. But if you would like to help out, you can check out my website, sparepartsemporium.com, to pick up my kits, or by becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. Members get early access to ad-free videos, exclusive merchandise, and even your name in the credits. Simply follow my Patreon link below or hit the join button. Just like my top Patreon supporters did, who are Andrew Marston, Banyevrian, Berserker, Dakota Gaburi, Daniel Dowling, David Ernst, David Smith, George Conzini Roberts, Little Templar, Maciej Savitsky, Mats Miniminit, Sam Sepulveda, Son of Sevatar, Swedsman, Tim, and Zeth27. And my top channel members, who are Andrew Chell, Bon Johnson, Chris Toomey, Dante, Dave, Doug H, Guy Bezant, John Gibbs, Kaiser Waffle 11, Lariat11, Liminal Journey, Marg Taylor, Misa Pogon, Nerdington Paints, Patrick K, Philip Poya, Rhino Shaughnessy, SO, TTS Dark Arts, The Sire Acquired, and Whale Tussler. So until next time, thanks for watching, and goodbye.